The door creaked open with a long, tired sound as Commander Ryan Hale stepped inside his small cabin on Arivos 4. It was late, the sky outside burning orange from the twin suns sinking behind the rocky hills. His boots left dusty marks on the metal floor. He dropped his gear beside the door and sighed deeply. For the first time in weeks he was home, but something felt wrong. He froze halfway through the hallway. The air was thick, almost warm. The cabin system always kept it cold when he was gone. He frowned. The kitchen light was glowing. He was sure he had turned everything off before his last patrol. System status check, he said. No response. The power core was off. Ryan's pulse quickened. Slowly, he drew the small pulse pistol from his belt and moved toward the kitchen. He had fought on too many worlds to ignore his instincts. The smell of cooked food hung faintly in the air. Strange, soft, and sweet. Someone was inside. He stopped by the doorframe, weapon ready, heart steady. Then he heard it. A whisper. A small, fragile sound. Shh, they might hear us. He turned the corner fast, aiming low. But what he saw froze him in place. Two tiny figures sat on the floor beside the food cabinet. Not soldiers. Not thieves. Children. Alien children. Their skin glimmered faintly violet with silvery markings along their arms like small constellations. Big, luminous eyes stared back at him, full of fear and tears. One clutched a broken doll. The other held a piece of bread half-eaten. Both looked too thin, too tired, too scared. Ryan lowered his weapon slowly. "Who are you?" he asked. The older girl, maybe 8 or 9, pushed her sister behind her protectively. "Please don't hurt us," she whispered. Ryan blinked, his voice softer now. "I'm not going to hurt you. How did you get in here?" The little one sniffled. The door was open. "We were cold. And hungry." He crouched down, keeping his distance. "You shouldn't be here. This zone is dangerous." The older one looked at him with watery eyes. "We didn't have anywhere else to go. Our mom..." "She's gone." The last word hit him like a bullet. Gone. He had seen that too many times. Families broken by war, by orders, by silence. He took a slow breath. "Gone where?" "They took her," the girl said, voice trembling. "The soldiers in white armor. They said she helped humans. They took her away and told us not to follow." Ryan's throat tightened. The soldiers in white, his own faction's security force. He holstered his pistol. "How long ago?" 3 days, she whispered. He looked around the kitchen. The crumbs, the empty water cup. They'd probably been hiding here since then, surviving on whatever they could find. 2 alien children in a human officer's home. That alone was enough to get him court-martialed. Before he could think further, a faint buzz sounded outside. Ryan stiffened. The motion sensors. A patrol drone. He moved quickly to the window. Through the blinds, he saw red scanning lights gliding over the rocky ground outside. They were close. "Get down," he whispered sharply. Now the older girl froze. He grabbed the nearest blanket, covered them, and pushed them under the table. The drone passed by the window, scanning. Red light filled the room. Ryan stood still, pretending to fix his weapon, acting normal. The scanner paused on the glass, a heartbeat too long, then drifted away. He waited until the hum faded before exhaling. The girls trembled under the table. The smaller one started to cry silently. Ryan knelt and lifted the blanket. "It's okay. They're gone." The older girl's eyes were full of confusion. Why did you help us? Humans don't help our kind." Ryan didn't answer at first. His gaze dropped to the floor. He remembered the last battlefield. A small alien medic who had risked her life to save his unit. She'd looked just like these girls. He finally said quietly, "Maybe it's time someone did." For a moment, silence filled the room. Only the wind outside howled through the cracks of the metal roof. Ryan sat back on the floor, exhausted. He hadn't eaten in a day. He stared at the 2 small faces watching him. Every rule he'd been trained to follow told him to report them. Every part of his heart told him not to. "Do you have names?" he asked. The older girl nodded hesitantly. "I'm Lena. This is my sister Ari." "Okay, Lena, Ari." He pointed toward the heater. "You can warm up there." Ari looked unsure but followed her sister. When Ryan switched on the heater, soft light filled the room, reflecting off their bright eyes. They were beautiful, fragile, otherworldly, yet so human in their fear. He went to the pantry, found 2 food packs, and heated them. When he placed the bowls in front of them, they stared at him like it was magic. Ari whispered, "It smells like home." He smiled faintly. "Eat. You'll need your strength." They hesitated at first, then ate quietly, carefully. Ryan sat opposite them, lost in thought. He wondered how much blood had been spilled between humans and aliens just because they looked different. He wondered if anyone else would have done what he just did. The storm outside grew stronger. Rain hit the windows like small bullets. Ryan patched a small hole in the roof while the girls finished their food. Lena looked around the cabin. "This is your house?" "Yeah, just a place I use when I'm not fighting." "Do you live alone?" He nodded. "Always have." Ari tilted her head. "You must be lonely." Her innocent tone caught him off guard. He laughed softly, a rare sound, maybe a little. For a brief moment, the war outside didn't exist. It was just a man and two children sharing food and warmth. Then, a loud bang. Something hit the outer door. Ryan stood up fast, gun drawn again. The girls froze, another bang, louder this time. The door shook. Ryan signaled the girls to hide. They scrambled behind the sofa. He crouched low, heart hammering. The door's lock panel blinked red, then green. Someone was overriding it. Military override code. The door slid open, and Sergeant Dale, one of Ryan's fellow soldiers, stepped in, wet from the rain. "Ryan, you home?" he called. Ryan quickly hid the blanket under the sofa, pressing a finger to his lips toward the girls. "Yeah," Ryan answered casually, holstering his gun. "Just fixing the comms." Dale entered the kitchen, wiping his face. "Command's checking on every officer. They said your signal went dead. You okay?" "Yeah, power issues again." Dale sniffed the air. "Smells like stew?" Ryan tensed. "Yeah, I had some old rations left," Dale laughed. "Lucky you. Haven't eaten a real meal in days." His gaze scanned the room, stopping near the heater. Ryan subtly stepped between him and the hidden girls. "Mind if I grab a drink?" Dale asked, walking toward the counter. "Sure," Ryan said, forcing a smile, praying he wouldn't notice the small shadow under the sofa. Then Ari's toy, the broken doll, rolled out across the floor, stopping near Dale's boot. Ryan's blood ran cold. Dale picked it up slowly, frowning. "What's this?" "Old keepsake," Ryan said quickly. "Found it on patrol. Thought I'd fix it." Dale turned it over in his hand, then shrugged. "You're getting soft, Commander." Ryan forced a laugh. "Maybe war's getting old." Dale chuckled, taking a sip of water. "Anyway, be careful. The brass is paranoid lately. They say alien rebels are hiding near this sector. If you see anything, report it fast." "Yeah," Ryan said softly. "I'll do that." Dale clapped his shoulder. "Good man." Then he left, the door sliding shut behind him. Ryan waited until the sound of footsteps faded completely before exhaling. His hands were shaking slightly. He turned toward the sofa. The girls peeked out, eyes wide. "You did good," he said quietly. "But we can't stay here long." Lena nodded. "We're sorry. We didn't mean to cause trouble." "It's not your fault," Ryan replied. "None of this is." He looked out the window, at the flickering red patrol lights sweeping the rain. He knew they'd be back. And if they found the girls here, not even his rank would save him. He turned to them, kneeling. "Listen, you can stay here tonight. Tomorrow, we'll find somewhere safe." Ari clutched his sleeve. "Will you come with us?" Ryan hesitated. For the first time in years, he felt something inside. A reason. A pull stronger than orders or duty. He placed his hand on her head gently. "Yeah, I'll come." The little girl smiled weakly, closing her eyes as exhaustion took over. Her sister stayed awake, watching Ryan as he turned off the lights. The cabin fell silent except for the storm outside. Ryan sat by the window, weapon ready, thinking about what he had just done. A human soldier hiding alien children, it was madness. But as he watched the two of them sleeping huddled together for warmth, he realized something. Madness might be the only sane thing left in this war. Outside, the night deepened. The drones passed again, their red eyes glowing through the rain. But inside that small cabin on Erebos 4, a new story had begun. One that would soon shake the entire war to its core. The rain stopped sometime before dawn. A gray mist wrapped the cabin on Erebos 4, hiding it from the world. Commander Ryan Hale hadn't slept. He sat by the window with his pistol beside him, listening to the soft breathing of the two girls asleep on the couch. He didn't understand why he felt this pull inside him. They were aliens. He was a human soldier trained to see their kind as enemies. But watching them sleep, small and helpless, something human in him refused to look away. When morning light spilled through the cracks, the younger one, Ari, was the first to wake. She blinked, saw him still sitting guard, and smiled sleepily. "You didn't sleep," she said softly. Ryan smiled back. "Soldiers don't sleep much." Her sister Lena stretched beside her, cautious as always. "Is it morning?" "Yeah," Ryan said. "And you both need breakfast." He found old ration bars and a packet of dried fruit. The girls ate slowly, polite even in hunger. It hurt to watch. They must have learned to be careful about food, who they took it from, who might punish them for it. After breakfast, Ryan cleaned his gun. The girls watched curiously. "Do you fight bad people with that?" Ari asked. He hesitated. "Sometimes, but I try not to use it unless I must." "Did you fight our people?" Lena asked bluntly. The question cut through him. "Yes," he said at last. "But I didn't want to." Silence filled the room. Ari hugged her knees. Lena stared at the floor. Ryan wanted to say more but didn't know how. Finally, Lena spoke. "Mom said humans are not all bad. She said one helped her once." Ryan looked up quickly. "Your mom said that?" "Yes, she worked at a human factory before the war started. She said a human officer gave her medicine when Ari was sick." Ryan's heart skipped. He remembered something. Years ago, during a supply drop near the mining district, an alien worker had begged him for antibiotics for her sick child. Against orders, he'd slipped her a vial. She had bright violet eyes and silver markings. Lyra, that was her name. He stared at the girls. "Was your mother's name Lyra?" Both nodded, surprised. "You knew her?" Lena asked. Ryan swallowed hard. "I think I did." Ari's eyes brightened. "Then maybe you can find her." Lena shook her head. The soldiers took her away. Ryan frowned. "Do you know where?" "They said." "Sector 9, Lena whispered. Ryan's stomach turned. Sector 9, a restricted military zone. Rumors said it was a lab for biological studies, meaning cruel experiments on alien prisoners. He stood up suddenly, pacing. "If she's there, she's in danger." Lena grabbed his sleeve. "Please, can you save her?" He looked at their faces, hope glowing in eyes too young for war. He couldn't lie to them. "I'll try," he said, "but it won't be easy." That night, after the girls slept again, Ryan dressed in his dark uniform and strapped on a data drive. He left a note on the table. "Stay quiet. Don't open the door. I'll come back." The walk to the base took an hour through cold fog. The guards knew him well. Commander Hale, decorated officer, loyal man. They let him pass with a lazy salute. Inside the command dome, screens glowed with reports. He slid into a terminal, entering override codes from memory. The system blinked awake. He typed, "Lyra, citizen file search." For a moment, nothing appeared. Then a file flashed open. Status active, classified, transferred to Sector 9. She was alive. Ryan exhaled slowly. But the next line froze him solid. Subject, Lyra. Use. Genetic compatibility testing between species. They were using her body for cross-species research, trying to merge human and alien DNA for war breeding. He felt sick. He copied everything onto his drive. Then the screen flashed red. Unauthorized download detected. "Damn it," he hissed. The alarm klaxon blared. He yanked the chip free and ran. Guards shouted behind him. He cut through maintenance corridors, ducked under closing blast doors, sprinted out the north exit into the storm. Bullets hissed past. A pulse beam grazed his shoulder, burning his armor. He reached the ridge, dove behind rocks, and crawled until the sirens faded. Blood dripped down his arm. He laughed bitterly. All this for one mother. Back at the cabin, the girls were waiting at the door, frightened by the sirens echoing in the distance. When they saw him bleeding, Ari cried out, "You're hurt?" "I'm fine," he said, though pain seared through his arm. He slumped onto the chair. Lena rushed to fetch cloth and water. "You went to find her, didn't you?" He nodded, pressing the cloth on his wound. "I found where she is." "Sector 9, is she alive?" Ari asked. "Yes, but she's trapped. And what they're doing there, it's wrong." Lena's small fist clenched. "Then we have to go get her." Ryan looked at her, this tiny child speaking like a commander. "It's not that simple. Sector 9 is guarded by drones, mechs, soldiers. Nobody comes out." She didn't blink. "You came out." That silenced him. Ari walked closer, placing her tiny hand on his uninjured one. You saved us. Please save her too. Ryan closed his eyes. Every part of his military training screamed no. But deep inside, the voice that had once made him human whispered yes. He sighed. All right. Tomorrow we move. But you do exactly what I say. Both nodded fiercely. They spent the next day preparing. Ryan packed food, power cells, and 2 cloaks. The girls helped quietly. He taught them hand signals. Stop, hide, run. Ari turned it into a game, giggling each time she did it right. Even in the middle of danger, she found light. By evening, the clouds turned red with sunset. Ryan sat sharpening his knife, watching the girls draw shapes on the dusty floor. Lena drew a small house with 3 dots inside. That's us, she said. Me, Ari, and Mom. Ryan smiled faintly. You forgot one. She looked puzzled. Who? You need one more dot. She hesitated, then drew it. That's you. Something inside him broke and healed at the same time. When darkness came, the wind howled again. Ryan switched off the lights. We leave in 1 hour. Lena and Ari put on the oversized cloaks. Their small hands trembled, but their eyes shone with determination. Before they stepped out, Ari looked up. Ryan, if we find her, will she be mad that we came? He smiled gently. She'll be too busy hugging you. They slipped through the night, moving down the valley. The air smelled of dust and ozone. Patrol lights swept across the hills like red blades. Each time they saw one, Ryan pulled the girls down into shadows until it passed. Halfway there, they reached an abandoned watchtower. He led them inside to rest. The walls were covered in graffiti, messages from soldiers long gone. War ends when we end ourselves. Lena traced the words with her finger. Do humans hate the war too? Most of us, Ryan said quietly. But hate is easier than guilt. He gave them water and checked his scanner. Only 6 kilometers to Sector 9. The route ahead crossed the gray wastes, an open field of ash where drones hovered day and night. They couldn't cross without being seen. Ryan stared at the map, thinking. Then he remembered an old transport tunnel beneath the waste field. It was sealed years ago, but maybe still usable. We'll take the tunnel, he said. Is it safe? Lena asked. He smirked. No, but it's better than the surface. Hours later, they found the tunnel entrance buried under rubble. Ryan pried it open with his knife. A cold draft blew from inside. They crawled in one by one. The air was damp and smelled of metal. Glowworms flickered faintly along the ceiling. The girls whispered to each other to stay calm. Halfway through, a low rumble echoed, something mechanical moving behind them. Ryan turned, flashlight cutting the dark. A security drone, old but active, rolled toward them on silent wheels. Run, he hissed. The tunnel filled with light as the drone charged a pulse. Ryan grabbed a rock and threw it, hitting its lens. Sparks burst. He fired his pistol once, direct hit. The explosion shook dust from the ceiling. The girls screamed but kept running until they reached the far hatch. Ryan kicked it open, coughing from smoke. They stumbled out into cold night air. Above them loomed the fences of Sector 9. High metal walls crowned with electric wires and glowing sensors. Ryan crouched behind a rock, breathing hard. We're here, he whispered. The girls stared at the distant buildings, tall white towers under the moonlight. Somewhere inside those walls was their mother. Lena gripped his sleeve. How do we get in? Ryan looked at the guards, the drones, the searchlights. His voice was steady. We make them think we belong there. He reached into his pack and pulled out a stolen uniform patch, white armor insignia, the same symbol worn by the men who had taken Lyra. The girls watched silently as he fixed it onto his jacket. Tomorrow, he said, eyes cold and calm, we walk through those gates. And as the wind howled over the alien desert, Ryan Hale, the human soldier who once followed every order, prepared to break them all for the sake of 2 small girls and the mother they had lost. Cold wind swept across the wasteland as Ryan Hale studied the glowing fences of Sector 9. The towers pulsed with blue light. Drones circled like silent vultures. Between the flashes of search beams, he could see the white buildings where Lyra, the girl's mother, was held. He checked his gear one last time. Pulse pistol charged, stolen ID badge clipped to his chest, and a single access chip glowing faintly in his palm. He turned to Lena and Ari, both wrapped in dusty cloaks. Whatever happens, he said quietly, Stay behind me and do not speak until I tell you. Lena nodded. Ari squeezed his hand. You'll bring her back? Ryan met her bright eyes. I promise. They waited for the night patrol to pass. When the nearest searchlight swung away, Ryan led them toward the gate. The stolen badge triggered the scanner. A robotic voice said, Authorization verified. The gate slid open. Inside, Sector 9 was a different world. Clean, silent, cruel. White corridors stretched endlessly, filled with the hum of machines. No one walked the halls. The staff trusted the drones to guard the prisoners. Ryan's boots echoed softly as they crept forward. They passed glass rooms where alien captives slept in suspended pods. The girls stared wide-eyed. Ari whispered, Are they all sick? Ryan shook his head. No, they're experiments. He stopped at a console, inserted the stolen chip, and searched for Lyra. The screen blinked. Subject LY443, Chamber 12. Lower wing. Downstairs, he murmured. They took a maintenance lift. Each second felt heavier than the last. Ryan kept his pistol ready, finger trembling near the trigger. When the door opened, a cold mist rushed out. Rows of cryotubes lined the walls. Inside each, a living shape floated, part human, part alien, connected to wires and tubes. Lena covered her mouth to stop a scream. At the far end, one pod glowed brighter. A tag read Lyra, stable, test pending. Ryan hurried forward and smashed the control panel with his gun butt. The glass slid open with a hiss. A woman collapsed into his arms, pale violet skin, silver markings, the same gentle face he remembered from years ago. She was breathing, weak but alive. Her eyes fluttered open. You're human. Ryan smiled faintly. And you're Lyra. She blinked in confusion. Then a small cry escaped her lips as two tiny voices shouted, Mom! The girls ran to her, tears streaming. Lyra gathered them with trembling arms, holding them so tightly it hurt to watch. My babies, she whispered. I thought you were gone. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. Then the alarm blared. Red lights strobed across the lab. Move! Ryan barked. He grabbed Lyra's arm, guiding her toward the corridor. Guards poured in, shouting orders. Ryan fired first, dropping two before they could aim. The girls covered their ears from the noise. They ran through the hallway as bullets tore holes in the walls. Ryan's shoulder burned again, but he kept moving. Lyra stumbled. He caught her. Almost there! At the exit, a steel gate slammed down. Locked. Ryan yanked at the control panel, sparks flying. Systems frozen. Behind them came heavy footsteps, combat mechs. The floor trembled. He pushed the girls behind a crate. Stay down. The mech turned the corner, weapon glowing. Ryan fired 3 shots. The bullets bounced off its armor. The machine aimed back, then suddenly sparks erupted from its chest. Lyra had ripped a power cable from the wall and jammed it into the mech's back. Electricity danced over its frame until it fell smoking to the floor. Ryan stared in surprise. Nice move, Lyra smiled weakly. I worked in a factory, remember? The gate finally lifted with a groan. Go, he shouted. They raced up the ramp into the open night. Sirens wailed behind them. Drones launched into the air. They sprinted toward the tunnel entrance. Searchlights slashed through the darkness. A beam hit them. Gunfire followed. Ryan turned, firing back, each shot timed between breaths. A bullet grazed his side. He kept running. Ryan! Lena screamed as he stumbled. I'm fine, he gasped. Keep going. They dove into the tunnel. The explosion behind them shook the walls. Dust rained down, blinding them. Ryan shielded the girls with his body until the noise stopped. Inside the tunnel, silence returned except for their ragged breathing. Lyra touched his wound, eyes shining with gratitude and guilt. Why did you do this? You risked everything. Ryan looked at her daughters huddled together. Because no child should whisper that their mother is gone. She lowered her head. Thank you, human. Ryan, he said softly. Call me Ryan. They followed the tunnel until dawn. At its end stood a rusted hatch opening into the hills beyond the base. When they stepped out, sunlight touched their faces for the first time in days. The air smelled of freedom and dust, but the escape wasn't over. Patrol drones still hunted overhead. Ryan led them through a dried riverbed toward an abandoned transport ship half buried in sand. Can it fly? Lyra asked. Barely, he said. But it's all we've got. Inside the ship, he worked furiously to start the old engines. Sparks jumped, panels flickered. The girls sat beside their mother, whispering softly, telling her about the kitchen, the blanket, and the stew Ryan had made. Lyra listened, tears shining in her eyes. Finally, the engines roared to life. Ryan grinned. "Hold on." The ship rose shakily, dust swirling below. Just then, 2 military crafts appeared on the horizon. They fired warning shots. Ryan pushed the throttle. "They found us!" Lyra shouted. "Can't we hide?" Too late for that. He twisted the controls, diving between cliffs. The enemy ships followed, lasers cutting the air. One blast tore a wing panel. Alarms screamed. Lena cried, "We're going to crash." "Not yet," Ryan growled. He aimed the ship toward a narrow canyon where scanners would lose them. The engines strained, metal groaning. The enemy ships fired again, missed by inches. Ryan hit a switch and released smoke flares. The sky filled with burning light. One pursuing craft collided with a rock face and exploded. The second veered away, losing track in the smoke. They burst out of the canyon, engines dying. Ryan guided the ship down into a field of silver grass. The landing was rough but safe. When the silence returned, Ari peeked outside first. "Are we safe now?" Ryan leaned back, exhausted. "For now." Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "You saved us all." He smiled faintly. "Guess I'm not such a bad human after all." The girls laughed weakly. For the first time, it sounded like real laughter. They spent the next day hiding in a cave by the river. Ryan repaired his wounds as best he could. Lyra gathered herbs from the strange blue plants outside. The juice healed faster than any human medicine. At night, they sat around a small fire. The girls dozed against their mother. Ryan stared at the flames. "What will you do now?" he asked. Lyra looked up at the stars. "There's a colony far north where humans and our kind live together. We'll go there. Start again." He nodded slowly. "Sounds peaceful." Lyra studied his face. "You could come with us." He smiled sadly. "If I do, they'll hunt you forever. They think I'm the traitor who freed the prisoners. You'll be safer if they think I died tonight." Tears filled her eyes. "There must be another way." "There isn't," he said softly. "But it's all right. I've done enough fighting. You take care of them now." Lena stirred awake, hearing his voice. "You're leaving?" Ryan nodded. "I have to make sure no one follows you. That's my job now." Ari ran to hug him, tiny arms wrapping around his neck. "I don't want you to go." He held her tightly. "You'll see me again one day, maybe in the stars." Lyra touched his shoulder. "If you ever find that peace you're looking for, look for us too." He smiled. "I will." Before dawn, Ryan walked alone back toward the cliffs. Behind him, the family watched from the shadows. When the first sun rose, the white glow covered the desert, and a distant explosion echoed as the ship he had planted charges in went up, wiping all traces of their trail. No one ever found Commander Ryan Hale's body. Official reports said he died destroying a rebel lab. The military called him a hero, never knowing whom he'd really saved. Years later, on a rebuilt planet where humans and aliens finally worked side by side, a monument stood in a quiet garden. It showed a human man kneeling, 2 small alien girls holding his hands. The inscription read, "He chose compassion over command, and because of him, 2 worlds found peace." Under the clear sky, Lyra and her daughters often came to sit by the statue. Ari would whisper to visitors, "That's our hero. He came home and found us." And somewhere beyond the stars, if one listened closely, the wind still carried his promise, soft, steady, eternal. Maybe it's time someone did.